Check, check, one, two. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to this dream analysis series. Last video, we talked about the new moon and how dreams you have around that time provide certain context to it, to what you're seeing, to what you're feeling. And today, we're going to talk about what comes after the new moon that leads into the waxing moon. It's building up into the full moon. So actually, before I want to talk about that, I want to bring up this past new moon for me. In the new moon dream that we discussed in the last video, it involved me in a living room, an unknown living room to me. And this time around, it involved my living room. So, funny enough, that was a recurring theme that I didn't see coming. You know what? I'll briefly just go over that because it might actually provide context to the themes of these waxing moon dreams that we're gonna go over. So this takes place at my house in the present day, this new moon dream. Um, and there's a party going on there, some sort of gathering. There's a bunch of people there that I recognize, and I'm standing in front of my bathroom door in the living room there. And a girl is next to me to my right. We'll just call her Z for now. And she's talking to me, but it sounds like she's revealing information to me. She says something along the lines of me having a strange mind, and that that there's people in Pennsylvania that were picking up on that and sending it negative or disruptive energy. The living room is pretty lively at this point, so it's kind of hard to focus on what she's saying, and I have to pee. So I step behind me into the bathroom, hoping that she's following me to give me more clear insight in a more private um, and quiet spot. And I keep asking her who and why, as in regards to these people in Pennsylvania. And she never explains that. Instead, she keeps saying that she feels like she's tattling, like a tattletale. And she uses that word specifically, tattling. Like she's violating some sort of rule or code and relaying that information to me. And for some reason, I feel really attracted to her as well. So I embrace her, and she welcomes it. She welcomes that, but she isn't amplifying that or building onto that. She's welcoming it, but not reciprocating it necessarily. And somehow, when she closes the door behind her, as I'm pulling my pants down to pee, the door breaks off the hinges, splits into two pieces, and falls outward, hitting someone in the head who says, "Ow!" followed by, "I'm okay." And Z, this girl, gets a cut on her finger from that all. So I already did the analysis for this. I did it off screen and all this just because I didn't do anything this whole waxing moon. It's waning now at this point on February 3rd. Um, I didn't really have a good opportunity to record. Really wasn't in the headspace for it. So I did a lot of analysis kind of on my own. So this was a good one. This was a lot of fun. Let me just go over how this resonated with me. So ultimately, this dream centers on a desire for intimate recognition and affection, not simply a romantic longing, but the wish to be seen deeply and understood in a safe, private way. So there's that contrast from the living room, especially the fact that there's a party going on, um, as more of a public front, and the seclusion and privacy of a bathroom. So there's a contrast there. I wrote that. The lively living room and private bathroom contrast signifies the tension between my public and social life and my instinctual slash vulnerable inner self that seeks release and clarity. Release, I had to pee. Yeah, usually urine, peeing in dreams has a lot to do with releasing, and that could be emotionally, that could be mostly to do with emotions, but other things as well. Um, Z functions less as a romantic figure and more as a trusted witness or an intuitive mirror, someone who perceives my inner complexity, but is not, but is constrained from fully articulating it. She couldn't say who, why, or what. Um, and the reason she's acting more as a trusted witness rather than a potential romantic partner is because in waking life, I've known this girl since we were in preschool, and we're more like, um, I want to say like brother and sister than potential lovers. But I was confused at first when I had this dream because I'm like, is that? I was like, is this what this is pointing towards? Um, but that didn't really resonate. But again, it's very easy to get wrapped up in the plot of the dreams than um, on an emotional level than really seeing through that or beneath that. Anyway, um, she's constrained from fully articulating that inner complexity that she perceives. The embrace between us reflects a real, a loud desire for closeness, while her non reciprocation reinforces boundaries. The risk of private info spilling out into the public sphere is represented by that door breaking, suggesting that exposing my instinctual or inner material too openly can cause minor but real consequence to myself and others. She cut her hand and the door fell on somebody's head out there. That whole strange mind and um, distant people in Pennsylvania observing reinforce a growing awareness of being perceived beyond my control, emphasizing a need for discernment in who I allow access to my inner world. Overall, the dream suggests integration rather than suppression, honoring instinct and longing while carefully choosing where and with whom vulnerability is expressed. Now, that is like a textbook new moon dream. I mean, so was the last one, but talk about a way to kind of kick off a cycle. It showed exactly what was on my mind, in regards to, yeah, perhaps not romantic longing, but that desire for intimate recognition and affection, privacy, boundaries, all that, while also showing what needs to happen in order for that to work for me. There needs to be discernment. There needs to be an awareness of um, who gets to access that part of me. Um, and then leading into the waxing cycle, um, I could discuss these dreams, but I'm gonna be honest, they were very sexual, very sexual, almost every night, which was crazy. Um, reason reason being, there's probably a couple reasons, but I think a large reason behind that was the nature of me having recently kicked a dang near decades long porn addiction. So there was a lot of themes around sexuality, pleasure, release, and almost every night was some sort of um, sexual dream, which was a. I'm not complaining, but it was definitely fun to uncode and kind of see what's going on because it wasn't comfortable, but also very, very intriguing. Maybe I'll get into those at a later time when I'm more comfortable, but I'm not gonna force it because I don't really want to right now. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that new moon dream because I thought it was interesting how even though that the last new moon dream I shared in the last new moon video wasn't the recent new moon before this one, it was one from September. I just found it funny how it both had to do with living rooms and that social public face, but this time in contrast to a more instinctual private one. So I don't know. And let's see then how that ties in, if it ties into. I'm just picking random dreams from this waxy moon cycle. This one was fairly close to the full moon, actually. This one came from um, January 30th, and the full moon was on February 1st. So this was pretty much right at the tail end of that. But first, before we do that, let's get into what you could expect from waxing moon dreams. Now, the waxing moon, again, the energy is building, the light is becoming more and more visible on the moon face. So, inherently, the dreams are going to come with themes of growth, expansion, and action. So, psychologically, that could mean ambition, building, momentum. And some qualities of those dreams can be progress, movement, effort, and the scenarios you might find yourself either experiencing, observing, or actually taking part in may feel very active, goal oriented. Um, for example, you could be climbing something, you could be building something, working towards something, competing. Um, it can bring challenges that test your skill and discipline, and symbolic rewards or tangible results may appear in these dreams. And I'd say, because it's this energy of growth, momentum, building, these symbols can be more fantastical um, than maybe in the waning cycle or even in the new moon. And the whole purpose behind them is that the mind is practicing growth and capability. It's reinforcing the initiative behind whatever and exploring how you manage that progress. So let's take a look at that. A lot going on, and waxing moon dreams for me almost always involve. They don't always involve sexuality, but for some reason, this moon cycle. I mean, it probably has something to do with the stage of life I'm currently in, for one. There was a lot going on in the cosmos as well. I'm not too well versed on all that at the moment, but maybe certain planets and constellations, um, like Venus, Mars, had something to do with that, but maybe that could be tying into these themes of sexuality and stuff like that. But, anyways, aside from that, a lot of my waxing moon dreams, because I still play sports, but I grew up playing a lot of sports, involve like me on the football field or on a baseball field or playing basketball. Um, very goal oriented, very much a lot of action and movement. So the dreams, I'm gonna do. I definitely want to do one dream here, maybe two. So the dream I'm gonna share right now, I already typed into Chat GPT, but I'm gonna. Excuse me, I haven't done the analysis of it yet. That's why you're here. So this was actually the second dream of the night, but I'm gonna do it first, and then if I feel like it, I'll do the first dream of the night after this one. Okay? So it goes like this: I'm on a stage as a stagehand for a live event, and this feels like the present day as well, or at least the present day on January 30th. Another member of the crew, who seems to be high functioning on the spectrum, quickly responds and reacts to a moment in which a cable needs to be replaced. He calls out the correct cable that's needed immediately and says that he needs a three-prong connector instead of the five-prong he has right now. The production transforms into a live interview of Tom Brady. For those of you who don't know who Tom Brady is, he right now he's a broadcast analysis and commentator, I think on CBS maybe, but he announces football games. Before that, he used to be one of the most dominant quarterbacks in American football in the NFL. Um, Probably the most famous quarterback right now, even though he doesn't play anymore. Um, so it's an interview of him. A question arises involving the insoles of Tom's cleats, which happen to be backstage. So I go back to retrieve them and find that two of the insoles there haven't been molded to his feet yet, and there's one insole that has. So I take all of them out and bring him on stage. Now I'm wearing dress shoes, and the floor of this stage is so dry and dusty that I can slide on it very easily, which is exactly what I do when I enter back on stage. And I'm not like slipping and sliding uncontrollably. I'm like intentionally like sliding on stage, like making it theatrical, I guess. Um, because it's a whole live thing. I don't know. I was feeling excited. The vibes were good. Um, so I slide on stage and I pass out pieces of this molded insole into the crowd. And I notice a lot of people in the crowd that I recognize from school, just from around town, including the principal from my middle school, who seems to be in disapproval of my performance slash my display coming back on stage. So that's the dream. Um, Now, right off the bat, being on stage and is important, I think. But what's interesting is that I'm not exactly the talent here. I'm a part of the um, crew who's running the show, which is interesting. I think that's has something to do with it. Now, my crew member, my crew mate, who seems to be high functioning on the spectrum, could be something too. Um, Not too sure though. I'm not sure what that would mean right now. And there's a discrepancy where a cable needs to be replaced, and we need a three-prong connector instead of a five-prong one, which is interesting. Maybe we'll get into a little bit of numerology in this dream, but I'm not too sure. I think that might have more to do with finding the right pieces to have a successful outcome. I don't know. We'll get to it. Tom Brady. I've never seen Tom Brady in a dream before, so that's funny. But he obviously very well known, very familiar for most people. I would think. At least that's how I perceive it to be. Him. Um, and a question comes up about Tom's cleats. Cleats are worn on the feet, so maybe the feet is something we'll have to look into. But the insoles in particular, which is interesting, because that has to do with comfort and definitely comfort, but also the functionality of whatever shoe you're wearing. Like, say you have really thin insoles compared to thicker ones, maybe you want or ones that are more stiff and rigid compared to ones that are more loose. I don't know, something to do with that. So I think the insoles are going to be a symbol as well. And maybe the fact that there was two that weren't molded and one that was, but the fact that I took them all out, I don't know. That'll be interesting. And I'm wearing dress shoes, which is interesting because that's a contrast. Dress shoes and cleats, two completely different things. Maybe there's something there. And the floor is really dry and dusty, and I slide out there, which I like. Like if I'm wearing socks and I'm on hardwood floors, I don't know why I like to. I like to just slide through the floors. I do ice skate and roller skate, so maybe that's why. And even in the crowd, I see a lot of people that I recognize, including a certain principal that I didn't really get along with and who isn't very happy with my performance. So that's interesting too. All right, so let's start here with the stage. Now, the stage is a public space for performances and events, in this case, a live one. However, I'm not the main attention of this show. I'm in the background helping things run smoothly. Also, I've been a stagehand in real life, in waking life, I should say. I've been a stagehand, and I've also do audio. I'm about to try lighting. So I'm familiar with this environment to some degree. And I've also performed on stages as a musician. Okay. I work with a lot of people who are on the spectrum, who are high functioning at that too, my brother included. Um, three prong versus five prong. All right, first things first, I want to get the whole stage theme down. So I'm again going to reference my handy dandy book. Oops. My handy dandy book, The Element Encyclopedia of 20,000 Dreams by Teresa Chung. Not sponsored, just like this one. There's plenty of good ones out there. So let's see if I could find something about stages. I think I can. Maybe performances. Stages of life. Stage. There we go. All right. Oh, and there's a section that says sharing with celebrities. So that's interesting. All right, but let's look at the stage first. Okay. All right. Okay. To be on stage suggests a desire to become more visible. Hey, if the stage is open air, this suggests communication with a large audience, not just a select few. By open air, do they mean outdoor? Is that what that means? This was definitely indoors. I know that. If the stage is moving, this indicates your desire to keep moving, which it wasn't here. Oh, here's an interesting point they make. Carl Jung, who's a very famous psychologist and dream analyst, probably the most famous. Um, it says he once wrote the whole dream work is essentially subjective, and a dream is a theater in which the dreamer is himself the scene, the player, the prompter, the producer, the author, the public, and the critic. In other words, dreams are themselves like a theater in which your problems, hopes, and fears are acted out by characters generated by your imagination, which is exactly the truth. And I think a good example of that, well, is any dream that I've done so far, but that new moon one I just talked about, where it's so easy to see people and think that the dream has to relate to these people in general, like Z, or even those people from Pennsylvania. At first, I'm thinking like, like subconsciously attracted to this person, or are there actually some people in Pennsylvania sending me like disruptive energy? Um, no, that's not the case. It's more that these people are symbolizing an aspect of my own um, personality or my own being, and my imagination is choosing these people to represent that for whatever reason. Okay. To dream of a theater is therefore like a dream within a dream. Interesting. Okay. Um. So it's interesting that it turned into an interview as well. Let's see if we can find a little bit more on this on page 456. I'm not seeing it. When a dream is set on stage, whether in the form of an opera, play, or ballet, this suggests you are working through an issue that relates to the way you are being you are seen by others. Okay, so again, um, we're seeing that this has to do with um public image, but more so the perception of how I'm being seen by others. So very, very in line with what we have so far. Okay, which seems to be accurate. And what I mean by that is that it resonates with me. So the stage is, we'll just say it's a medium representing, what did it say here? Representing how I'm seen by others. Okay. All right. Interesting. Interesting. All right. So this, I'm actually kind of glad I'm doing this one first and not all those sexual ones. But now I'm feeling like it would be useful to talk about those, but I'll do that in a later video, not this one. Anyways, so here's what I'm getting already, just intuitively, what I'm feeling is I'm already seeing the contrast now between being a stagehand versus being the main act, we'll just say. So, how I'm seen by others, or how I perceive myself to be seen by others, I'm playing this supporting role, right? in waking life, that's kind of how I like to do things. I love behind the scenes stuff. Doing this, being in front of the camera is something I'm getting a lot more comfortable with, but it's challenging for me to do this. It's way harder for me to do this than to than to like run the sound for a show or something like that. I much would prefer to do that and stay out of the way, okay? So, the fact that um probably jumping a lot of steps here, but this is kind of what I'm feeling. When I go backstage and then come out and slide out all cool like, and I see that the principal is in disapproval of this, this is perhaps telling me that there's a part of me, this authoritative, principling figure within me that disapproves when I act out in a way that's, I'm going to say theatrical just to be in theme with this dream, but not really that. I mean like just expressing myself, being fun, being loose, doing that. There's a part of me that's like, you don't deserve to do that. Or you're not that guy, something like that. Um, so definitely something I'm working through. Um, that's just how I'm feeling. But let's see. And the reason I'm feeling so strongly about that already is because a lot of the dreams that I had before this one had a lot to do with self-expression and how I hide that part of me because there's this policing, authoritative, surveilling part of me inside that doesn't agree with that or says I'm not worthy of that, not capable of that. And clearly I can do that. But it's just fears, we could say it's trauma from childhood. It's things from circumstances of life, but the truth is that there is that part of me that doesn't allow that or disapproves that for no good reason. Well, maybe it served me at one point, but now it's no longer doing that. Okay. All right. So the stage is that medium for that represents how I'm seen by others. Let's see what else we can look at. And we already kind of dialed in what the principle would be there. Really, what I'm uh interested in here is the whole um my crewmate who was apparently on the spectrum, or at least seemed like it. The whole three prong to five prong connector thing. So let's kind of man, I know talks about people on the spectrum can be a very touchy subject. After all, it's a spectrum. It's very, very broad spectrum. Um, my brother's on the spectrum. I work with people on the spectrum every all the time. So I'm very familiar with that realm. I'm not going to say I'm necessarily qualified to talk about that, but hey, I'm doing it. So I'm going to try my best. So I don't want to go over analyzing this because I'm probably going to go a little bit too deep on it. But the fact that he's seems to be on the spectrum, um, I don't even know if that's really a thing to be looking too much into. I think more so that he's very quick to react and decisive about what needs to be fixed. I think that's kind of more important here. Um, and maybe that's just a representation of what I'm going through. I'm using that discernment, that precision to navigate this whole um, self expression thing going on. It's a visual representation of the decisions being made to work through it in order to get where I want to go, in order for the show to be successful. That's kind of how I'm taking this. And the fact that something needs to be replaced is telling me that an old ideology that I had, or an old belief, this old belief of being scared to be seen, or to not feeling worthy or valuable enough to be, whatever, that old belief is getting replaced by one that's more suited to who I am now, what I want now. That seems to be resonating. So let me jot that down. Maybe there is something to do with the whole, you know, spectrum thing, but I'm gonna be honest. I don't see it right now. I don't see it. We'll see what the what the Chat GPT has to say, but we can. I think definitely say that uh, the stage hand that was with me is analogous of the replacements or the changes in my own beliefs and ideology now moving forward. So I'm gonna jot that down real quick. A shift of perspective, a shift of belief when it comes to being seen, being comfortable in my own skin, even. Um, so let's start with that. Okay. Now let's move on to Tom Brady. Let me just see. There was a part here that was talk. Move my bookmark. I like to keep a. It's a random sheet of paper. I like to keep it with the glossary so I know where to come back to. Okay, I open right back to the same page. Okay, sharing with celebrities. Let's see. Maybe this will be of use. Maybe it's obtuse. Okay. I'm in food and drink. I think I went to the wrong page. I sure did. Page 236. I was in 268. Okay. Celebrities. Hmm. Now, Tom Brady is definitely not my favorite athlete or, person in general, but I do respect him, I guess. Not a Patriots fan or whatever. So this is what it has to say. If you secretly yearn to be, say, a singer-songwriter, a dream of sharing the stage with a top group and together sending the crowd wild, may encourage you to pursue your vision. Finally, bear in mind that whenever a celebrity appears in your dream, they're typically someone you have admired for a long time. Such a dream may also suggest um, that you may want some of the recognition that routinely comes their way. It's not really resonating with me here, but pursuing my vision, that does. That does. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. The whole Tom Brady thing, being that he's a pretty successful guy, I'd say he's someone that's the way I perceive him at least, is someone that's definitely living out his dream. I would say doing what and being that he might have the most. Does he have the most Super Bowl rings of any? Let me just search this up real quick, just for peace of mind. Uh, who has the most? Actually, let me see. Let me refine this. Does Tom Brady have the most Super Bowl rings? Question mark. Is he the most successful quarterback in that regard? 7 Super Bowl rings. He has the most Super Bowl rings in NFL history. So yeah, I think instinctually, I equate or I relate Tom Brady to someone who's very successful, someone who's been in pursuit of his vision for a long time and it's been to much avail. So I think he could be representing a part of me that wants to do just that. Maybe not win Super Bowls and, be a famous athlete per se, but um to have that kind of success through just sticking with what I love to do. Okay. That seems to make sense here. All right. Okay, so all right, let's see if we can hammer down. Let me just jot that thing down about Tom Brady real quick. We'll just say the pursuit of my dreams slash vision. I think that's pretty good. Now the insoles. Let me just see if there's something about that here. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think so. Maybe in shoes, or we'll go to feet. There's a lot about shoes. Okay. I don't know. Wait. Let me see if I can refine this just a little bit. If there is soles or insoles, I'll be shocked. But maybe the part of shoes goes into like parts of shoe. No, I don't think so. All right. Let's see what we can find here then. Shoes. All right. What kind of shoes? Let's just see here. Is there someone in waking life that you wish to give the boot to? Not really. Maybe aspects of me that I want to give the boot. Boots and shoes are what we wear to protect our feet and give us good contact with the ground. So if they feature in your dream, need to make a special effort to keep in do you need to make a special effort to keep in touch with reality? I've been working on trying to be present. Let me tell you, I am so restless all the time, and this past waxing cycle has revealed a lot, which we'll get into hopefully, about how I need to really just be present and work on that restlessness, work on not feeling like I need to earn relaxation all the time. We'll get into that. Shoes often represent your chosen way of life in dreams or the character traits developed to deal with life. If the shoes belong to a particular role or activity, for example, ballet shoes or nurse's shoes, for those in caring professions, this may indicate the need for qualities of that role or activity. So, okay, interesting. This could be relating to that of an athlete then, but more to that of an active life. I live a very, very active life. Um, okay. Nothing about the insoles here, but I think this has to do with being active and finding the right um the fact that they were molded means that they were shaped around the feet, shaped around basically they were made to work with the lifestyle. So I'm trying to find what works for the lifestyle that I'm envisioning, that I'm dreaming of. I think that's kind of the direction this is going. At least that's what feels right. Let's see what else if we can find anything. But I think we have like the emotional tone of this dream down. I'd say it's like 85% there. I lost it. Shoes, shoes, shoes. 363. What? I'm not seeing it. This is all about media and technology. I'm not seeing shoes anywhere here. Sometimes it's there, but it's not bolded. I don't know if you can see. There's some words that are bolded. You can barely see that. But yeah, this is all about telephones and stuff. I'm not seeing shoes anywhere. Oh, I see it now. It's about advertisements. Like, was it an advertisement for shoes? No, that's not the case here. Okay, one last check for good measure, but I think we pretty much got it. There's also a thing about recovering lost shoes, but I was recovering. Ooh, that's interesting. I pulled them from backstage and brought them out for people to observe. Hmm. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. All right, we'll look at that. That is interesting. Anyways, I think it was page 525. That completely took my train of thought. Yep, page 525. Alrighty. Okay, this is in the section about sex, so that's interesting. Let's see, 22, 23. I don't think this really had any sexual ties, this dream. I don't even see where shoes are here. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and skip this though, just for time's sake, because I do want to do a whole nother dream after this, and we're already an hour in. This is gonna be a long video. If you're already still watching this, it's gonna be a long one. All right, so let's just see this whole recovering lost shoes business here. See, that might actually give us some insight. Okay, losing something, recovering something. If you recover shoes, are you recovering your footing? Yeah, so I'd say it's recovering this part of me that is more in line, more in alignment with what I currently desire. I think that's pretty good. Molded insoles represent recovering parts of me that are more aligned with my current will slash desire. Okay, that's all, I think. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I haven't written this down, but I'm just gonna type it in, and then later on I'll take the analysis between me and Chat GPT and write that in my analysis. But let's do this. So I accidentally let me open this up real quick. So I accidentally already gave ChatGPT the dream, but it didn't interpret it or analyze it. It's waiting for me to give the interpretation ever so kindly, as per my instructions. So what I'm gonna do is, just in case this page decides to quit or something, I'm just gonna copy this. In case I don't want to retype all that. But this is what I had just told you guys. Okay, so my analysis. The stage is a medium for representation of how I'm seen by others. So that stage crew member being quick to react and respond to the issue is analogous. Uh, why can't I spell right now? There we go. Of me using discernment to replace slash shift a belief that is, I'm going to say, beliefs that are preventing me from feeling comfortable slash safe being, we'll just say, with visibility. Tom Brady could be a representation of the we'll just say Tom Brady being, but we'll just say objectively, honestly, it's not even subjective at this point. Successful in his career could be a representation of wanting to pursue my dreams slash vision with the same sort of success. It's molded insoles and the fact that they were oh I and the fact that they were backstage, is that one word? Yeah. Make me think that has to do with recovering parts of me that are more aligned with my current path slash desire slash will. Sliding out on stage is a form of fun, exciting self expression that I display. Especially especially because I'm I can never type the word because um because I'm a stagehand, not the talent. Sliding out on stage is a form of fun, I suppose. especially because I'm stagehand, not the talent. Which, 1 second. Okay. Which shows that I kind of skipped over that whole contrast between being the talent and being stagehand. You heard me say it though. I'm sure Chat GPT will freaking realize that. Sliding out on stages forms, which can symbolize. I've completely lost my train of thought here. I'm so sorry. Oh, sliding on stage. I'm gonna just not follow that sentence up and just go to the contrast with the with my principal. The middle school principal is that aspect of me that is authoritative and controlling when it comes to expression. So for him to be in disapproval suggests the that part of me that I'm working on overcoming slash working with. Am I missing anything here? Did I get the whole 3 versus 5 prong thing? Kinda. What do you think? All right, let's see here, folks. First off, this is a really solid coherent analysis. You're not reaching, you're tracking consistent symbolic logic all the way through. I don't need to correct much here. What I can do is pressure test it, deepen it, and point out a few layers you didn't explicitly name but are already implied. I'll go symbol cluster by symbol cluster and then zoom out. Where your analysis is already dead on. You're absolutely right. The stage is about visibility, and the fact that you're a stagehand is huge. This isn't fear of being seen in a simple way, it's being essential to the production while not being framed as the talent. That tells me you're negotiating how visible you're willing to be while still retaining control. You're not hiding, you're choosing a liminal role that aligns perfectly with your point about comfort/safety with visibility. The quick reacting crew member and cable swap. Your discernment read is strong, and I'll add one nuance. The issue isn't that something is broken, it's that the wrong connector is in use. 3 prong versus 5 prong is about compatibility, grounding, voltage, and capacity. Interesting. I didn't even really think about that one too literally, but that's interesting how that relates. Symbolically, that's not change beliefs because they're bad. It's this belief system works, but not for this context. So you're not rejecting past frameworks, you're upgrading interface points so your energy can flow without friction or overload. Tom Brady as an architect. You nailed this success angle, but the dream is Tom Brady very specifically. He's hyper disciplined, known for longevity, someone whose foundation The routine, prep, body care is legendary. See, to be honest, I don't know all that much about Tom Brady, but I can kind of just assume this about him. So this isn't just I want success, it's I want success that is repeatable, sustainable, and embodied. That leads directly to the insoles. The insoles are the core symbol. This is the dream's heart. Backstage equals pre performance, subconscious, preparatory work. Insoles equal how you stand, move, and transmit force into the world. They're literally the interface between body and ground, the thing no one sees but everything depends on. Interesting because that also ties into the whole stagehand thing. Your interpretation that they represent parts of you aligned with your current path is exactly right. But here's the sharper cut. Two unmolded insoles is potentials, identities, and ways of moving that you haven't been lived into. The one molded is lived experience, embodied truth already shaped by pressure and repetition. You bring all three on stage. That matters. See, this is something I didn't even consider. Breaking up the molded insole and giving it to the crowd. This is the boldest part of the dream, and it's where your analysis could go even deeper. You're not just expressing yourself, you're distributing pieces of your embodied knowledge. That suggests teaching, influence, transmission, creative, or spiritual leadership. But it's not performative. You're not saying, look at me. You're saying, here, take what has supported me. That's a very particular kind of offering. I mean, isn't that what this channel is? Oh, that's great. The slide across the stage. You clock this as fun self-expression, which is correct, but there's an extra signal. A dry, dusty floor, dress shoes, not athletic, not meant for sliding, that you slide easily. That's the dream saying, even in environments that aren't optimized for me, I can move gracefully if I trust my momentum. Heck yeah. It's effortless confidence, not forced bravado. Bleh, bravado. The fact that you slide as a stagehand reinforces that this expression is unannounced, not validated by a title. The principal's disapproval. The read is spot on, and I want to validate something important. The principal doesn't stop you, he doesn't pull you off stage, he only disapproves. That means this authority has this authority part has lost enforcement power. It can judge, but it can't control anymore. This dream is about outgrowing internalized authority, not fighting it. Middle school specifically are formative years when approval mattered, expression was policed, rules were absorbed unconsciously. So his presence confirms you're touching something early and foundational. Like I said, these were like old traumas, even whatever you want to call them. So zoom out what the dream is really saying. Put together, this dream isn't about becoming visible in a generic sense. It's about shifting from supporting systems to quiet leadership, sharing embodied wisdom without claiming the spotlight, upgrading internal interfaces so your energy can flow safely and sustainably, accepting that some internal authority will disapprove and doing it anyway. The waxing moon timing fits beautifully. This is growth, rehearsal, and integration, not culmination yet. If I had to distill this message into one sentence, it would be you're learning how to stand in your own foundation publicly without needing permission or starring role. Yeah, that's it. Now I'm going to take this one step further. Awesome chat. Thank you. Now, can you give me an alternate analysis of this dream and what would have to be true for it to fit? This is what I wanted. This is what I've been starting to do now, and it's actually been really, really cool. Okay, different angles. So this is the alternate analysis. A tension between adaptation and authenticity. In this reading, the dream isn't primarily about stepping into visibility or leadership. It's about adapting yourself to systems that weren't designed with you in mind, and the subtle cost of doing so. So here the stage isn't about how you're being seen, it's about institutional context, work, society, culture, or a specific system you're operating within. Being a stagehand suggests you're competent, trusted, relied upon, but fundamentally supporting someone else's vision. Um, I mean, maybe that's never my goal. I've been in positions like that before, but it's not resonating the same right now. You're not aspiring to be the talent, you're assuring the machine runs. This points less to fear of visibility and more to over functioning inside someone else's framework. Um, yeah, not really hitting the spectrum coded crew member. In this version, this figure represents adaptation, adapt, adaptation. Why was that so hard? Extreme competence, fast correction, system fluency, low emotional processing of the situation. The cable mismatch isn't a belief shift, it's constant micro adjustments to keep things from falling. I'm very good at fixing problems that shouldn't exist in the first place. This isn't discernment, it's survival intelligence. Maybe to some degree, but not really feeling it. Tom Brady here doesn't represent your dream. He represents an external ideal of excellence, a system that rewards discipline, conformity, and optimization, success defined by performance metrics. You're not identifying as Brady, you're maintaining conditions that Brady can succeed. Yeah, it's not really what this feels like. The insoles, critical difference. In this reading, the insoles aren't claimed as parts of you, they're adaptations you've made for someone else's terrain. Okay, so yeah. Some things kind of work here. So, in order for this to be true, this would have to fit, according to ChatGPT. If you're currently in a role where your competence is exploited more than recognized, no, it's not really the case for me. Success depends on fitting into systems you didn't design. I'm actually currently designing systems right now, so that doesn't fit. You've internalized an identity built from pressure rather than preference. That has truth to it. You sometimes perform ease or playfulness to mask fatigue or constraint. Mm, I don't know about that. Authority figures don't actively punish you, but subtly disapprove when you step out of a role. Yeah. Yeah, so there's some things that fit here, but honestly, mostly the first stream. I mean, the first analysis was the one that really seemed to ring and sing inside of me. So we're gonna stick with that. But I've been doing this. I've been asking ChatGPT to give me alternate readings because at first or after a couple times I was doing this, I'm like, is it just agreeing with me just because like is it just agreeing with me to make it seem like doing the right thing when really I'm not? So I started asking you what some other things could mean where and I'm like and in some cases are like, wow, this is actually a deeper layer that adds meaning. But right now, this time around when I've done this alternate reading, it's really not resonating with me. Maybe some little parts like I think there's definitely some truth in um an internalized identity built from pressure rather than preference. There's definitely truth in that. But I don't think that's really what the dream's underlining. That's not what it feels like here. But I would encourage, or I would suggest, if you are using this whole method, to ask the AI to give you another reading. That would be like asking another dream analyst, having another perspective, which is really really key. But really, the most important thing is the feeling, what's resonating. That's the discernment you need to see what's landing, what makes sense, and what's being revealed, and what steps you maybe want to take after that. Okay. So right now, I think we're like an hour and a half in. Okay, we're an hour and 15 minutes in. So shoot, man, I really want to do this next stream, so I'm gonna do it. All right. This is a shorter dream, but it's one that I actually don't. I didn't really know what direction this one was gonna go in, but I think the stage was really um huge clue there. So this other dream that I had, this came before this whole stage dream. Let me just tell ChatGPT I want to do another one because it asked me some things over here. Okay. Thanks, chat. The second read really didn't resonate. The part about internalized pressure dictating action rather than preference did though. Let's look at the dream I had before this one on the same night. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to type this in here and explain it to you at the same time. I'll kind of walk through it, see what I think, and I'm not going to write any analysis down. I'm just going to ask chat for it because it's getting kind of late and it's a long video. So this is just what chat had to say about my response here. That makes total sense, and thank you for saying exactly what did land and what didn't. What I'm hearing is the over adaptation slash survival intelligence frame doesn't match your lived sense of self right now, but the idea of pressure can quietly shape action faster than preference does. But yeah. That's useful because it tells us what thread to track in the earlier dream. Not am I trapped by systems, but where does pressure subtly preempt choice? Maybe. We'll see. That's interesting. Yep. All right, so let's take a look at this dream. Okay. The dream. This is the dream, guys. I'm in a classroom. Is that one word? It is. With people in my grade that I recognize from my hometown. There's a student who is not familiar to me. Don't know this person. Never seen this person. That has long black hair in a ponytail and is originally from India. The teacher, who is also unfamiliar, explains that the student had spent 9 years of his life alone with nobody to check on him. But when he moved to the US, he's had people around him. While I'm sitting in the class, I notice majority of the students are from, so my town has two primary elementary schools, and majority of the students are from one of those, the one that I went to. From the elementary school I went to. And I count 33 of them. 33 is a significant number. We'll see if it has anything to do here. So the way I kind of see this, the classroom environment, it's a I wish I could say what era this was in. I don't know if this was present day or more of like a grade school thing. I really don't remember. I had this dream written down, but I didn't clock what era it felt like. I want to say we felt younger though. And so the classroom, a place of learning, lessons, social, um, learned social behavior, people I recognize from that, familiar faces. And then this one student who was originally from India. Let me just quickly look at India because when I think of India, I think of a place full of like masters, almost like not like the end goal, but like a higher realm almost. If that makes sense to anyone, maybe. Um, or like an ancient oriental kind of realm. I think India is in this book. I just want to see what I can dig up on that, to be honest. India. One of the most densely populated countries in the world, it exemplifies a wealth of spiritual diversity as well as ritualistic spiritual beliefs. It's also one of the poorest countries in the world, so to dream of it may also suggest emotional malnourishment or financial worries. I didn't really dream of India, but I didn't know that. Is it really one of the poorest countries in the world? Is that true? That's crazy. Um, but yeah, I think spirituality and has a lot to do with that. So 9. I want to look at numbers while we're at it too. Numerology. Number 9, I think, has a lot to do with release, closing out. Reconciliation, completion, accomplishment. 3 times 3. Interesting because we have the number 33 as well here. In India, it is the number of God and yogi who will leave the wheel of birth and death. In dreams, the number 9 suggests the end of one cycle and the beginning of another, but it can also suggest lack of concentration. Pregnancy is usually 9 months' duration. I'm not really doing anything with babies here, so that doesn't hit. It's the number of the Hermit card in tarot, which can suggest solitude and introspection. Interesting. I think 33 is actually a number in here as well. Master number 11, 22, and 33. They're called master numbers because they're thought to possess a huge potential. 11 is the most intuitive of all the numbers, and it suggests powerful illumination. 22 suggests the realization of your goals, and 33 is a powerful symbol of personal wisdom and understanding. So, wisdom, spirituality, understanding. Interesting. And the fact that this student from India was alone for 9 years honestly kind of makes me think of dang near decades long addiction I had to porn. Being alone for 9 years, being I wasn't alone for 9 years, but maybe I had abandoned that more spiritual, more what else did they say? Maybe wisdom and understanding. I just kind of abandoned, almost like a dark night of the soul kind of period. Um, and then when he moved to the U.S., he had people around him supporting him, so that could symbolize a transition that I've personally had, um, and coming back into alignment with those more spiritual, more it's interesting because right now it's 9:22, but in the 24-hour clock it's 21:22 as I'm saying all this. So I don't know, maybe this is kind of circulating around the theme of coming back into alignment with my more spiritual side and more in alignment with what I truly want, not the thing that was dictated by um, addictions and overindulgence and all that. That's kind of the rough emotional tone I'm getting, and that's resonating. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this. Oh, let me tell him that first. Analysis. I think this has to do with. Oh, I have to tell it. Okay. It's whenever I do these, I have to preface that I had this addiction. Whatever. I think this has to do with me returning to alignment with my higher path. We'll say heart path. The being alone for 9 years makes me think of the roughly decades long porn addiction that I kicked about 6 months, 7 months ago. 7 months ago. And so coming to the US and having a support system could be of me reclaiming my power slash energy that was deprived while in that so-called dark night of the soul. What do you think? Thank you for bringing this one in. It really does feel like Act One. I would agree. And honestly, your instinct about this being returning to alignment is very strong. Let me walk you through it carefully because this stream is quieter but extremely spread. This one is very quiet. Very, very quiet. I'll respond in three layers. Where your analysis is clearly on point, what the dream is symbolically underneath the reading, and how the dream feeds directly into the stage dream that followed it. So the 9 years alone, you're not forcing that association. Dreams often compress long arcs into clean numbers, and 9 years alone functions less as biography and more as a sealed period. What matters symbolically? Isolation, self containment, no witness, no external regulation or mirroring. That lines up cleanly with addiction. Not just porn specifically, but any loop that happens without relational interruption. So your sense of dark night slash energy deprivation is well grounded. And the timing matters. You're not in it anymore. You're observing it from a classroom. Interesting. Moving to the US plus people around him. This absolutely reads as re entry into community, nervous system regulation through presence. I was just talking about that. Energy returning to circulation. Importantly, the dream doesn't say he's better, just that people around him, there are people around him now. That's realistic integration, not spiritual bypass. So, yes, reclaiming power through connection, not through willpower. What the dream is doing symbolically. Now, here's a deeper layer that complements but slightly reframes your analysis. The student is not you, but of you. The Indian student isn't a straight self stand in, he's a disowned or underdeveloped aspect of you that matured outside the dominant culture you grew up in, sure, lived under very different conditions, developed in isolation rather than social mirroring. India isn't about nationality, it's about inwardness, renunciation, spiritual austerity, internal worlds over external performance. So this part of you didn't fall behind, it evolved elsewhere. The teacher explaining his story. You're not discovering this through emotion, you're hearing it explained. That suggests integration through understanding, narrative coherence, compassion without re identification. This is no longer a wound you're reliving, it's one you can contextualize. The classroom and hometown peers. This is crucial. You're not in therapy, you're not alone, you're not in a liminal dreamscape. You're in a classroom with your original social reference group. That tells me the work here is about, can this part of me exist alongside who I was before the isolation? Not instead of, alongside. The number 33, this isn't random. We strip away any spiritual associations. 33 is a completion number. 3 times 11, a number of synthesis, often shows up when something is ready to be lived, not just understood. But here's the key detail. You counted them. Counting is conscious, deliberate, and grounding. This isn't mystical awe, it's orientation. You're locating yourself in a social field and realizing, I can be here with all of this history present. How this feeds directly into the stage dream. So, dream one, which is the classroom one, a previously isolated, inward developed part of you that is acknowledged and contextualized in community. So the second dream is then you bring embodied support, that molded insole, onto a public stage and share it. The pressure versus preference theme you mentioned lives between the two dreams. In the classroom dream, pressure kept something isolated and preference wasn't accessible. In the stage dream, you're experimenting with choosing how and when to express, not just functioning. So the dreams together aren't saying you were shaped by pressure. They're saying now that the isolation is over, you get to notice when pressure tries to act faster than choice and decide differently. Interesting. Now, a small correction here. This isn't just about reclaiming energy that was lost, it's also about integrating capacities that could only develop in solitude. Um, if you guys, for some weird reason, looked at any of my videos before I started live streaming over the summer, I was definitely in like full hermit mode. I mean, I've still kind of been in hermit mode, but I'm getting out more. Solitude. Like I've come to so many realizations in solitude. So that makes a lot of sense. That Indian student survived 9 years alone. He didn't just endure, he learned something. The question the dream seems to ask is, what does that part of you need to know? Oh, sorry. What does that part of you need now that it no longer has to be alone? That's not a Dark Knight narrative anymore. That's a stewardship question. Interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting because the new moon dream that I had was talking about, expressing a desire for that support, to be for being seen, having reciprocation. Where is it? What was it? Recognition and affection, understanding in a safe and private way. Um, the reason that this stream was quieter too is you can see with the more waxing dream phenomenon, um, the goal oriented things. There's not really much of that going on here. It's a lot more just observation in this dream, which then leads into more of that goal oriented, the very active, performance, being on stage, moving parts, passing things out to the crowd, sliding out, all that kind of stuff. This dream was a lot more subtle, but ties right into it in a way. Um, and yeah, like I said, a lot of the dreams I was having was, this one doesn't really talk about it, but was kind of revolving around that recovery from my addiction. Um, yeah, for some reason, I'm at a point now where I'm doing a lot of healing in that department, a lot of integration from those past patterns. Um, and it's been cool to actually track this now and see what's actually being targeted within me and how I can work with that to just feel more comfortable with who I am now and how to move forward in that way. So, waxing. The waxing moon is a lot about exploring growth and expansion. Now we're in the waning moon, and we'll see how that works out to my explanation of it when we get to it. I'm not going to explain the waning moon right now. This was already a very, very long video, probably like 2 hours at this point. But it was a good one. I had a lot of fun doing this. A lot of connections were made here. Some funny synchronicities happened as well. So, thank you guys for watching this one. I know it was a long one, so I appreciate if you stayed this long. Hats off to you. Um, Email me if you want some help with this. I would love to help you out. Or if you just want to hang out, join the chat, listen to me spiel about all this, that's cool too. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.